And and for me, a lot of this is about making sure that we do create a space where we can talk about what the future of change is going to be like. It's change has changed, and everyone says that change is the same as it always was, and you have a beginning, middle, and end, and you get to the end. It's not like that anymore. It really isn't. In my view, uh, what's really changed is the pace of change, and the context within which we're working has so radically transformed over the last 10 to 15 years. We need a space where we can ask questions about, well, hold on a second, we always do change using the Kotter model, or we always do change like that. That's how change is done. It's not like that at all. And to be able to dare to ask those questions in a way that creates positive and constructive challenge and insight, I think that, Kimberly, when we speak, we have such fun and we have such brilliant ideas. It's really an opportunity to share those with a wider audience.
It's so true. I think part of what we were aiming to achieve almost organically was really coming out of these great conversations we have and sharing ideas, thoughts, experiences, which matter to not just practitioners, people that we have as colleagues in the field around change and transformation, but the organizational design, the organizational effectiveness, the continuous improvement, the process engineering practitioners, all of those complementary places in which we find ourselves when we're dealing with complex change. Thinking also about those decision makers, those leaders and organizations that may know a lot or maybe know very little about change at the end of the day, and yet have to consider these big investments that are being made that necessarily require some of the thoughtfulness that you and I consider, in the work and through the effort in bringing people forward. And really, I think for anyone that may have an interest in talking about things organization, things people, and ultimately things change.
Well, this is about collaboration. It's about us sharing our insights, getting people saying, actually, Nick, that's rubbish. It doesn't work like that in my world. That's not how it works for me. Because that's great. We don't have all the answers. We don't pretend to have all the answers. If we were, would be lying. And I think this is about being very authentic in our reality of how we want this to look. And as you were talking just now, Kimberly, one of the things that struck me is that we've got two complementary approaches where you look at organizational change and you can get into the nitty-gritty of how do you create the organization dynamics for these things to happen. And I maybe take maybe more of a strategic, systemic view of how are people changing in the world today? What are their ambitions, and what does the world look like post-digital that it didn't look like pre-digital? And I'm pretty much at an age where I can remember pre-digital. So talking about that wider frame, I think is interesting. It's fascinating the way that we do that.
Thinking that, but I think it's important to consider all of those inputs, all of that information, all of that experience that informs the work that we do contemporarily, right? There are lots of things, as you say, historically that have brought us to this place. And I think what you and I are doing are looking at the ways and means by which we apply those things, the pragmatic approaches to convert those theories, those ideas, that strategy into living, breathable, operable form. Plan is to present you as our growing community with topics that are of interest and relevance to the work that we do and experiences that we've had, things that may be trending as far as the world, our environments, the marketplace are concerned, and investigating those from the perspectives of organizational change and transformation. And also digging in a little bit about how we practically, through our combined experiences, which I think may be thousands of years, Nick, between the two of us, I'm not quite sure, but applying our work in ways that are practical.
What we don't want to be is a talking shop with no insight which is usable. Change is only useful, and podcasts are only useful if they actually cover things that actually relate to what's going on in the real world. And it's really important, I think, that we have that as our touchstone. Is this something which will help other people involved in change, either the leaders and managers or executives within organizations, or people who are transformation directors or change managers, all of those people have to be able to listen to what we're talking about and say, actually, if I think about it like that, I might take a different approach tomorrow when I'm going to work.
So join Nick and I as we explore these topics and others in change and transformation and deal with the wild world and deliver change that sticks.